I believe a great story can only come from fantastic, nuanced characters that your audience can either connect to or they just can't take their eyes off. Welcome back. As everybody knows, it's really hard to make a great film from a bad script. So what makes a good script? Well, I think fundamentally one of the most important parts of a great script is great characters. I mean, I think we've all seen fantastic characters in films. Heath Ledger's Joker, Johnny Depp's Captain Jack Sparrow, Marlon Brando in pretty much anything. So by the end of this episode, you'll be able to take the 3 techniques I'm about to show you to improve the characters in your script, to make them more believable, more relatable, and more proactive. So to really help define what a character is, we should probably understand what a character is not. They are not what they wear, who they sleep with, what color the walls are. None of these things actually make the character who they are. A character is actually defined by the distinct moral and psychological attributes that reside within them. Each of the 3 techniques I'm about to show you are based around those principles. This is going to help you direct exactly what the environment is around them. How do they live? What do they wear? Who do they sleep with? What type of car do they drive? What type of job do they have? All of these things start to click into place when you fully understand who the character is from a moral and psychological standpoint. Some of this is down to the writer. They will have obviously described certain things around the characters, props, certain things that are very important to the story, but ultimately you as the director have the chance to improve on that, to change it to be more in line with the overall vision that you have for the film. So don't ever feel like you're locked down to the visuals of the script, because you can always take that one step further, develop it even further, make the film even better. So how do I make my character believable? Well, one technique that I found has been really successful is you find out what the character believes. And when I say what the character believes, I don't mean Christianity or they believe in a certain footballing team winning the World Cup. I mean an internal belief about the world around them and how it works. This sets up the motivation for the character in every single situation that they are put through in your story. So with this, you have a filter to be able to say,
this character doesn't feel like they've got the right motivation.
It's not really adhering to what their belief is. So in one of my latest short films, I have a failing rock star who's been tamed by the people around him.
Yes! Yes! People said that snorting coke wasn't selling records. People said it wasn't cool to strip on stage. So I started drinking plants. I donated my entire bunk.
Therefore, his belief is that the only way to become successful again is to do what is popular. In the movie The Fountain by Steven Soderbergh, if you haven't watched it, please go away and watch it. So beautiful. The main protagonist in the film believes he is smarter than anyone, which leads him to a belief that the only person who can save his dying wife is him. Now, for those of you who've seen the film, you understand what conflict this brings out in the film. You'd think it would be illogical that he would reject other people's help, but when he believes he's the only person who can do it, he trusts in his own intelligence and no one else's, then we start to understand why he makes the mistakes that he makes. Number 2, how do I make my character more relatable to my audience? You have to ensure that your character has a problem within them that they don't know about. This problem must not be the external main conflict of the film. It's got to be a problem they have to overcome, and if they don't overcome it, they cannot achieve their desire in your movie. The audience want to see your character overcome their psychological, their moral flaws to be able to achieve their desire. So we know that we can do the same. So finding the human trait that you're going to pull from your character that they have to now overcome is kind of tricky, because automatically we start to think of negative human traits like being misogynistic or lazy or egotistical. And yes, quite a lot of the time these traits are a great starting point. But for some more advanced traits that you can add to your characters or think about in future is traits which are actually positive, but you push them so far they become negative. These traits are actually really interesting because they're really easy for your character to get behind, such as being really productive. Your character has probably built a whole belief system about being the most productive person in the room. But if you push that trait too far, now that person believes that being productive is more important than spending time with their family. What if your character is very protective of their family? But going too far, they become overprotective. They start to cut their family off from the rest of the world out of fear that they're going to not be able to protect their family. Start to think about some positive human traits and see where you can push them. See how far they can go. Enliven them, enrich your character, and make them more three-dimensional in your own films. Finally, make your characters proactive. Never have your character wait for things to happen to them. Never have your character more reactive than proactive. If you've realized that your character right now is just reacting to everything in the story around them, maybe you have a problem. So how am I going to make my character proactive? Well, we've already got some brilliant information about our characters from the previous 2 ideas and concepts that you've already come up with for your characters. So use the flaws and use their beliefs to be the basis for what your character chooses to do in your story. But also, by utilizing the flaws and beliefs, you're going to give them actions which aren't the most logical actions in the scenario that they're in. Instead, these are the actions that your unique character will take. Ultimately, your character will make a justifiable action which won't end up in your story being finished immediately. This gives you a great foundation for making sure that whatever your character wants is probably exactly what their flaws have been holding them back from all along, and why we're even watching this movie. Is there ever a time that my character is doing nothing? And yes, sometimes your character has to react to something that's happened to them in the film, or your antagonist has attacked your character in some way, shape, or form. Has your character just tried to react to set everything back to the way it was before the action? Or has their action ended up in the story moving forward? Actions which just create a neutral reaction, they're not really compelling. Take for example, if your character is running away from a serial killer and they're trying to survive, well, based on our flaws and our belief systems, how do they run away from the killer? What direction would they choose if they are given an option between jumping over a dumpster or leaping through the fire escape? Which one will they choose? How will they utilize the environment around them to their advantage? And by having that groundwork before, you should be able to work out what this character is going to choose each and every time. So it's actually going to make the process of writing and rewriting and developing your story so much more easy. A brilliant example of this is during Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. At the end of the film, the holy chalice has fallen between the cracks in the earth as the temple is falling down around them. Indiana Jones's love interest, or potential love interest, has fallen down into the crack and has spotted the holy chalice is just out of reach, and if she just reached that little bit more, she'd be able to get it. And in the end, the woman falls to her peril without having been able to reach the chalice. Then immediately after, Indiana Jones is faced with the same moral problem. Is he going to reach for the chalice? The power, the immortality, the value that's right in front of him, and it's just at the tip of his finger, and if he reaches for it, he might just get it. But to do so, he risks his own life. Is he willing to do the same? Is he willing to lose his life for this chalice? Indiana Jones's values are tested, and he decides to make the opposite decision to the previous person in the same position as him. Another brilliant movie I thoroughly recommend that you go and watch right now. Panic Room, David Fincher, where each and every character in the film is almost constantly proactive all the way through. It's a masterclass. I'd say most of David Fincher's films are a masterclass in watching characters consistently acting towards their goal, their beliefs, and their flaws. So in the movie, we watch robbers trying to rob a house while the owners are stuck inside a room that they could get out of easily, but what the robbers want is inside that room. So at one point in the movie, the robbers try to gas the mother and daughter inside the panic room. Immediately they react by trying to either block up the vents and find a fresh source of air. But the mother doesn't just stop there. The mother actually decides that she's going to attack them by using their own weapon. So she actually ignites the gas coming into the room, sending a flame back to the gas can that's in the room outside. This wasn't just a matter of trying to prevent them from being gassed. It was also her using this scenario to attack them. Make your characters believable. And to do that, give them a belief which you can send all of their actions through to ensure that everything they do is justified. Make your characters relatable. Give them a human trait that is ultimately flawed and can be used against them in the film. And finally, make your character proactive. The audience doesn't want to watch a boring character doing nothing and waiting for the world to happen to them. Make sure that that character is doing what they believe they should be doing to get their desire. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell icon for more content coming soon.